Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Friday, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at the first quarter moon in the sign of Scorpio and give you a few tips for how to manage or work with this last quarter moon and some things to watch for as well. It's a powerful last quarter moon today, so we'll talk about why and how to work with it. So anyway, before we do that, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments and reflections as we go. It'd be great to hear from you. You can find a transcript of today's talk on the website, nightlightastrology.com, as you can for all of my daily talks. I want to take you over there right now because I've got an event coming up that I want to invite you guys to check out. You go over to the website, nightlightastrology.com, and you click on the live events tab. I'm going to be doing once monthly webinars for the foreseeable future. I've got a 3-part series that I'm starting here in February. It is called The Outer Planets in Our Relationships. And this part 1 of the series, there's a 3-part series. Part 1 is called Pluto in Love. And in this talk, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking about how Pluto shows up when involved in love and relationships. What does Pluto do when it activates Venus? What does Pluto do when it transits your 7th house? Sometimes even when it hits the moon. Or what is it like when you have Pluto configured to Venus natally? Basically, we want to talk about the kind of alchemical process that Pluto entails when it is working on us in terms of love, sex, relationships, because a lot of the times people come in for readings and, or I hear people in social media talking about Pluto when it gets involved with love and relationships, and it's just pure terror. People get a little tripped out by Pluto. So anyway, and then in part 2 of this series and part 3, we're going to look at Neptune and Uranus. When all of the outer planets are involved with the topic of love and relationships, either natally or by transit, what can we expect? So I think you guys are going to love this series that I've developed. It's $20 to join the webinar. You can register on the website under this tab. You get the recording if you can't make it live. You get the recording either way to download and keep. So I hope to see some of you there. That is going to be from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, as Venus is conjoining Pluto, by the way. So perfect time for the talk. If you have any questions, feel free to email us info@nightlightastrology.com. Hope to see some of you there. All right, well, let's get into our talk for today. And we're going to be looking at this last quarter moon in Scorpio. I just have a few things I want to say here at the end of the week. So here we can see Friday, February 2nd. And I want you to notice that the moon has entered Scorpio. This is in the morning time, heading into the last quarter square with the sun in Aquarius. Now, remember, as this last quarter moon is coming through, we have been going through a lunation cycle that has included a lot of aspectual connection between Capricorn and Taurus with an underlying Venusian thrust. We have Saturn in the exaltation and bound of Venus, Jupiter in the sign and the domicile and the bound of Venus, Uranus in the domicile of Venus and the bound of Jupiter. We've had Venus going through a trine to Jupiter. We've had all of these contacts between Mercury and Mars hitting Uranus in the sign of Venus. We talked a lot about things that are being built and developed in the earthy plane with the underlying desires and intentions of Venus, which can affect our relationships, can also be about things that we desire to build or develop, sort of earthy stuff, but informed by a vision of Venus. We also recently had the sun cross into Aquarius and conjoin Pluto in Aquarius, just starting to shape and tone the cycle ahead, which will be a new moon in Aquarius coming up on the I think it's the 9th, if I'm off the top of my head. Anyway, so this last quarter moon is interesting because it really serves as a kind of transition point between the emphasis on Cap and Taurus and the new emphasis that's coming between Aquarius and Taurus. You can see here this, wow, it's funny, the tiny, now that my arrow decided to go in the direction of tininess. Okay, anyway, so you can see there, last quarter moon, now conversing with the sun in Aquarius. This is really important because it's starting to shift things into the Aquarian cycle ahead, which will be about the pairing now rather than Capricorn and Taurus, it'll be Aquarius and Taurus. So on that note, there are 3 things that I want us to watch for around the end of this cycle in this last quarter moon that's coming in today and tomorrow. And there's 3 of them. One is emotional intelligence is needed. Look, when Capricorn gets involved, it's build, plan, develop, and there's a kind of underlying steely and determined quality. It's like we're climbing up a mountain here. It's not necessarily enjoyable, even though the thing we're building might be beautiful or it might be on behalf of Venus. Like there's a kind of chop wood, carry water mentality that comes with Capricorn. We get into the sign of Aquarius as we're shifting into the next cycle, and we start thinking a lot about the loftiest, most beautiful, archetypally ideal images. I mean, Aquarius is like the gold medal standard for human beings. This is a sign that implies that humans can reach toward the realm of the gods and find their place close to the gods, as the story of Ganymede shows us. But it also is about the inability to make peace with our human nature. The aspiration to be godlike can come at the cost of not being embodied. In order to reach for something of a gold standard and to not leave our earthly nature behind, this last quarter Scorpio moon pointing us in the direction of this new cycle between Taurus and Aquarius, which can be like a gold standard. It can be like what is the highest possible structure or form or embodied shape that something can take. Well, if we're going to go down that path, the Scorpio moon right now is insisting that we not leave our emotional reality behind. That this last quarter moon will start having it'll press us to start thinking about what might we be stuffing down, pushing away, repressing. What might we need to remember emotionally? It's like whatever you're building, however ideal and beautiful it is, if the emotional intelligence, if the embodied, instinctual, animal, relational, sensitive nature that we have as human beings isn't included, something will get left out, and it will come back later. And it often comes back later in the form of like a monster, an unconscious shadow. So right now, it's really important to look at what is coming up emotionally and demanding that it be included, that it be considered, that it be a part of the new plans moving forward. This last quarter moon, it's kind of like the shedding of an old cycle, the beginning of the planting of the seeds of the next cycle. It's like a composting process. Number two is that a Scorpio last quarter moon can sort of push us to explore the underlying desires that we have that are shaping or creating the urge to build or manifest whatever we are trying to manifest. You have a blueprint laid out on the table. It's a starry, otherworldly, ideal, beautiful blueprint that comes from the realm of Aquarius, squaring with Taurus, the Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. This is going to be just very beautiful and high-minded. The standard is reaching toward our highest potential. You think of the New Age movement, sometimes also called the human potential movement. Well, it's something that's pushing us toward our highest potential. But have we explored why we want what we want, or what we think it will provide us with? You could have, I have this bad habit of sometimes eavesdropping. I don't mean to do it. It's at the gym. I go to the gym, I work out, and occasionally I just can't, because here's the thing is I go hunting for astrological symbolism. I hear people talking, and if they're talking loudly and I sort of can't help but hear it, I tend to listen because I feel like if something's popping onto my radar, there might be a way to correlate what they're talking about with the transit. And then I'm so curious. I know it's a bad habit. Anyway, so I found I was at the gym and there were these two women that were talking about the remodeling of a bathroom in their house. And it was clearly like, there was clearly like wealth and privilege at play in the conversation. And I found it so interesting because it was so like perfectly correlated with the sun in Aquarius squaring Jupiter and Taurus at the time. I was just like, gosh, she's talking about her ideal and how these contractors are falling short of exactly what she wants. She was sounding kind of snotty, to be honest with you. And I mean, maybe she's frustrated for good reason. I don't know. Right. So I'm not passing judgment, but I just thought, why do you want, I started thinking about that last quarter moon in Scorpio coming up and thinking to myself, what do you think the bathroom is going to give you? Now, I'm not saying that there's not, that you don't need a bath. we're human beings. If you want to remodel a bathroom, remodel it. But the level of frustration that it was falling short of her ideal, to me, probably speaks, if she was my client, I would say, like, it probably speaks to some kind of unhealthy or unrealistic expectation that you have for what you think this bathroom means or will give you. If you can, if you're so frustrated that it's not going perfectly to plan, it doesn't look exactly the way you wanted it to. And I could be wrong, but I didn't hear disaster. I heard some nitpicking, you know? And again, I'm not talking about like I'm straining to listen. I'm talking about someone who's speaking very loudly. It was kind of hard not to hear. And then I was just like, ooh, the astrologer in me was listening. um, what are we hoping to get out of this? Scorpio moon can be very honest, very like, take an honest look in the mirror. What do you think is going to come from all of this? Where do you think that you're going to end up as a result of what you're building? If you can be honest with yourself and say, well, I don't think it's going to change everything, it would be nice if you can, or if you can even look and say, I'm probably putting too much on what I'm hoping will come of this, a process in my life, or something that I'm in the process of trying to build or create, or an aspiration I'm reaching for. And like, why? What's beneath it? What's the history? What's the hurt? What's the pain? What's the desire? It's not that having a shadow to our desires means that you should discard them, but it does help to be in touch with the shadows and the fears and the anxieties and you know what I mean? Like it helps. I find myself, for example, I'm in the process of doing a recomposition diet right now, it's called, with my trainer. And I find myself at times, like I have to be like, this is for the sake of health and happiness. And, the bonus is liking how I look. Do you know what I mean? Because I have to, the only way that I can stay in that mindset is by occasionally refreshing myself with some of the shadows of why, I'm doing what I'm doing. Well, I want to look so great. I want to, achieve something, blah, blah, blah. And I have to be like, okay, yep, those voices are there. They have a role to play in why I'm doing what I'm doing. But I stay in touch with them, because if I try to suppress or ignore them or pretend like, well, they don't exist, I'm better than that, I only want this purely for my health. If I don't visit the egotistical desires behind things, then they get stronger because I'm in denial about them. This Scorpio last quarter moon says, hey, check your plans right now. Look at the shadows of why you want what you want. That doesn't invalidate what you want. We're so black or white. We're so all or nothing in our thinking. We think that if there's shadow, then it must mean the whole thing is rotten. No, that kind of thinking is usually what's the rotten piece, is more our black or white way of thinking. And Scorpio just encourages us to go into the darkness, not so that we can discard and call out and say, well, your desires that are cast in gold and light are all false. No, it's a more balanced understanding of where we're going. And then that balanced understanding and incorporation of the shadow allows us to be more flexible. And that's the goal here. Now, number 3 is the insistence of imperfection. Scorpio is a sign that absolutely insists that we look at the world as a place of blood and guts, not that it's a horrible, terrorizing, cruel place. It does include terror and cruelty and things that really make you scratch your head. Well, how was this included? Like, well, who made this? Who included this in the plan for the universe? Scorpio doesn't like to provide answers for the existence of darkness. It just insists that it is part of the picture, a very mysterious, confounding part, not one that because it exists we have to condone or love or put in a elevate in like worship or something. But it's one that we can't deny, that we can't exclude. And with all of this coming emphasis on Aquarius and Taurus, 2 signs that like to hold out human potential and beauty and luxury and stability, a golden sunny day, and the best of the best in human nature. Okay, well that's beautiful. And Scorpio's like, someone's gonna shit their pants on the car ride. So you can't get away from it. Someone's gonna rip a big one. And it's like, Scorpio doesn't insist that life is bad or dark or difficult, or that you should really just, I don't know, put on some heavy black mascara and a trench coat and walk around just brooding on, but it insists that it is darkness, rain, mud, the release of destructive power, that these play a mysterious role in the forces of creation. You can't exclude it, no matter how high-minded your thinking is, no matter how progressive you are, no matter how spiritual you are, no matter how luxurious or stable or beautiful. There will always be a stinky fart. There will always be a poop in the swimming pool, and it will ask you to reflect and consider. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there on a really gross note. Don't let the shit get in your way. Have a fun weekend, and we will see you again next week. Bye.